Well, good evening, guys and girls. This is Panos coming to you live on Instagram, live on Facebook for the Sunday Night Rant, a special time of the year when people know that they've got a good 2 to 3 weeks coming up, an opportunity to relax, do things they like, not have the pressure of being there at deadlines, sleeping better, having time to yourself, reading, relaxing, exercising, watching Netflix, YouTube. Hey Mark, hi all, how you going? Let's get this show on the road. Good to see you all. Let's see everyone coming up. Hello Shane, and there's our friend Paul Checker. The great Paul Checker is joining Instagram on the Sunday night for the first time. My wonderful electrician that did a fantastic job, John Iglesias, is on. Good to see you all. Good to see you, Leon from Colossus. George is there. Josh Tessalon. So why don't we start off and talk about what we're doing in February and March all around Australia. We have got real estate gym kickstarts, and people say to me, "Hello, Connie, the stunning queen of real estate." Yesterday, she outshined everyone. She was fantastic. She looked good, she performed good, and she got good. Alex Jordan, how you going? The social media king of real estate. This guy sells so much real estate using social media. Johnny Manis. So gang, what's the story? Around the country, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, Auckland, real estate gyms, $39, correct. 2/3 of a day session, $39 to kickstart your year for real estate gym members, only at that price. Everyone else pays $199. Why? Because you've always got to be giving value. And some of the speakers we've got coming to speak at these events confirmed: John McGrath, Lisa Novak, Shane Beaumont, Josh Tessalon, Tara, $1 million agent from Byron Bay. I can't go through all the names. Angelo Nicholas, a $1.5 million agent from Adelaide. Kate Smith, she sells 170 homes a year. Shane Beaumont, who's going to show us exactly what he does, including the backstage view to his social media strategy that has made him one of the most successful real estate agents. And a lot of people say, but Tom, there must be a trick to why is it only $39? There is no trick. And there's no me selling off the stage saying, hey, you're here now, buy this. This is me making sure the way that you get sticky with your client base is you deliver more value than they pay you. And never forget that strategy in business. Hey, Peter from the Blue Mountains, Hey Bay Projects. What you do to be successful long-term in any business is people pay you money, but you must give much more value than what they're actually paying. That way, they stay with you. So today, guys and girls, we are going to cover in this rant a couple of things. So let's have a look at what we're going to cover. We're going to cover the following. What do you do when something bad happens? Whether you caused it or whether you were an innocent person and it was out of your control and it's darkness. Example. Let me give you some examples of these things. You've been diagnosed unexpectedly with something that is terminal. You've had some bad news about a family member. You've woken up and there's a very, very bad headline in the media. You've had someone extremely loyal to you, maybe married to you, that backstabbed you, deceived you. What do you do when the shit goes down? And what I'd like to say is let's start on that subject. And I've had that happen to me a few times. The first real dark period for me was in 06, when I was in my mid-30s, and out of the blue, I had been surprisingly told that I had an illness that was going to be very difficult to treat and most likely terminal. what do? I didn't know that back then, but I do now. Whenever I have a situation that is not like a 3 or 4 out of 10 problem, and it's closer to a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 at times, what do? You narrow the time frame focus. I'll say that again. You narrow the time frame focus. So instead of looking at the world in days, weeks, or months, what you do is you start getting through the hours because they're manageable. And what you do is by narrowing the time frame, what happens is the chances of you catastrophizing reduce significantly, because what you're doing is looking at short-term blocks. And then what you also do is the following. You also try and look for even the smallest glimpse of something positive in that short time frame. Even if it is something as noticing a beautiful flower and being able to focus on how natural and beautiful it is unassisted. Or maybe you notice the random act of kindness of a health worker if you're in a hospital. Or notice something that is good looking, beautiful aesthetically. Or focus on something that has given you happiness in the past. All you do is narrow your focus in time frame, because if you're going to actually look too far in the future, it can be your mind will say, this is the end of the world, right? It ain't going to get better. It's always going to be dark. It's going to affect every area of my life. And in fact, nothing will ever be the same. And that's what happens to a mind. But what actually happens if you narrow the focus and you look at things in just sort of 5-minute blocks, you can get by, right? That's the first 2 things I want to talk about. If something really shit happens, narrow your focus and look for even the smallest glimpse of something positive in that situation. I want to move on and talk to you about, and Paul Checker that's watching this on the phone, he's, by the way, that's the rugby union, ex-rugby union coach Michael Checker's brother, who's a good friend of mine and John McGrath's. I was talking to him on the phone. He said, what are you going to talk about on the Sunday Night Rant? And I said, I'm going to talk about gay conversion therapy. And I said that flippantly, and I said it as a joke. And then I thought about it further, and I thought, you know what? It's got nothing to do with business. It's got nothing to do with real estate. But, you know, it's a topic that is worth discussing, because when you've got things like the Israel Folau, when you've got a group of people in the society who believe that they're being targeted because of their sexuality, when you've got strong values from anti-gay organizations, I thought, hey, and what came about this is I was watching a movie, right? And the movie was a real life documentary, but it talked about gay conversion therapy. And it was quite bizarre, because in this movie, the person that runs the gay conversion therapy institution ends up actually leaving it and moving in with a lover and becoming gay, or was always gay and basically came out of the closet. And this is the guy that was actually running the gay conversion therapy. But this is the interesting thing about gay conversion therapy. And I actually did a bit of research this afternoon, because I was going to talk about this topic. I didn't want people to sort of say, but that's not quite true. So I went off and Googled it, and there's no evidence at all to suggest that gay conversion therapy works. But what's interesting is what they do. Get ready for how gay conversion therapy works. They get people that are homosexuals, and what they do is they show them homosexual erotica, and while they're showing them homosexual erotica, what they do is they give them electric shock therapy, so they can start associating pain with it. That's the first thing. The second thing they do is they induce drugs that cause nausea, like chemotherapy causes nausea, while showing homosexual erotica. So if you can actually see what the philosophy is, that if we actually show them some gay porn and at the same time we actually give them nausea drugs so they vomit, it's bizarre thinking about it. It's actually, you know, and I can see why there was such an uproar with some of the comments that Israel Folau has said. And anyway, I'm not going to talk about that topic, but you know, it's those two things, like nausea and electric shock therapy, by associating it with gay porn, essentially, is what the philosophy was of gay conversion therapy. And all I can say to you is that if you are the parents of children that have tendencies showing that they're gay, you should show them love. You should not show them pills to make them vomit, or take them into some institution that's going to tell them that they're unwell, that there's something wrong with their head and they're going to make them better. You should show them love. You should show them love, because I've heard a very, very sad story of someone in the Greek community, might I add, in the Greek community, that told their parents that they were gay, and subsequently what happened is the parents, or one of the parents, actually said, get out of the house, and soon after that person or that child committed suicide. Show them love. Show them love. Let me move on and talk to you a little bit about the membership economy. The membership economy. The membership economy is very interesting. It didn't exist many years ago, but it does exist now. And it's an economy that I actually participate in. And the way the membership economy works is that people now are buying products and services in not a one-time relationship, in a longer-time relationship. And I, in fact, have got a business, and I've had a business for 5 years called the Real Estate Gym, that fits under the umbrella of a membership economy. There are other businesses that you'd know that have got a much higher profile than the Real Estate Gym that also fit into that umbrella, Netflix being one of those. Spotify being another, Zero accounting software being another. And what I thought I'd do is just explain to you how a membership economy works. There are actually two parties, the people that provide the services and the actual people that become members. And there's an exchange. And even Facebook, if you think about it, Facebook is part of the membership economy, because what's actually happening with Facebook is that you are being given a platform at no charge, unless you're advertising. You are being given a platform at no charge. And what's actually happening is that they also, so that's what Facebook brings to the table. And then what actually the people that use Facebook bring to the table is their data. So you are providing them the data, right? And that is how it works. And give you an example, Netflix, you pay a monthly fee. And then what actually, that allows Netflix to go off and actually create content for you. So both people are bringing something to the table, right? And then what actually happens is both people benefit by bringing things to the table. And what I thought I'd do is just run through the kind of, membership economies that exist. The first one is what I call the traditional membership platform. And that is simple things like Telstra that brought out mobile phone plans, or TPG that have got an internet plan, or Vodafone. They are your original. Hey Phoebe, good to see you back. They are the original. Thank you Nick. They are the original membership platforms, and they're called the traditional membership platforms. Then you've got what I call the loyalty membership platforms, and they are things like Starbucks, They give you a card, and then what actually happens is you give them that card and you keep going back. So you actually enter that community. And what's interesting about the membership economy that we're in is you actually become a customer for these people for a long period of time. It's unlike you going to Harvey Norman and buying a plasma screen once and then going away from that store. Under the membership platform, you actually become a client in a long-term relationship, and that's really, really good for everyone. And the reason why it's good for everyone is what happens is members then are giving you feedback on how they want the product improved. They're also giving you money that goes out for you to actually create content that actually serves their needs. And to me, the membership, we're looking at, there's a digital subscription. This is like Netflix, and you've got what I call online communities like Facebook, LinkedIn. Then you've got loyalty platforms like Starbucks cards and people that give you a card to go back to them. And then you've got the traditional ones, which I ran through. Now, the real key secret to actually running a very successful membership economy is the following: that you must have a very good acquisition strategy. And many people actually call that an acquisition funnel. And to me, there are 4 steps in the acquisition strategy. Number 1 is that you must make sure that you initially go after people that are aware of you. And that's why brand is super critical in the membership economy. It's really hard to get a customer if they're not aware of you. The second thing you've got to do is you've got to get them to get a taste test of what it feels like to be part of your community. The third thing you've got to do is you've got to get them to actually sign up and buy. And then the fourth thing you've got to do is you've got to get them to become a client, hopefully for life. Now, you need to have this acquisition strategy where it starts off, if you think about it, how does it start off with? With a big, broad audience, everyone. The second thing happens is then it moves on to, when I say everyone that's aware of you, then it goes off and you actually give people a bit of a taste test of what it's like. And it might be the light version, or they'll consume your free content, which I was doing for a very long time, giving people a 5-minute version of video content. And I was saying, if you like that, take the next step. Then people join, and then people hopefully see so much value. And I'm pleased to let you know, get ready. The real estate gym has got a churn rate of less than 5%. And my technology partner, who's involved with most membership platforms around Australia, and he's a super brain, says to me, I am way at the peak of having a low churn rate. And the real secret is this. The secret is you've got to provide so much value that the small fee that people pay, the 10, 12 bucks a week, seems to them like, hey, that's a no-brainer. And then you add things like, face-to-face events at next to nothing, $39. And then what people say is, hey, I feel like this is my group, this is my people, I get their values and I see value for money. So that is the membership economy. And I want to touch also now a little bit on a subject. So I'm veering off from business and I'm going to move on to a subject. And that is, I was talking to a young property manager, and I said to him, I hope you don't do coke. And he turned around and he said, no, I've never done drugs, but I would like to, just to see what it's like at least once. That was interesting. I said, why would you do that? And he said, I just want to see what it feels like once. What does it feel like once? So I went on to explain to him what it felt like in my experience. So what I'd like to do is spend 2 or 3 minutes and tell you the 3 drugs that I've tried in my life. Some a lot more than others. But I thought what I'd do is just share with you what those 3 drugs felt as an experience. Because maybe after I've told you, if curiosity was the only reason you'd ever try it, maybe there won't be any need to, because I've explained it to you. maybe at the end of it, you'll turn around and sort of say, you know, I'd like to try it because it sounds pretty good, but here it is. Let me start off with Ecstasy. So Ecstasy was a drug that I first took in the late to middle 80s, mid 80s to late 80s. And it was at the time when dance festivals started popping up. And they started popping up and there was all these parties going on at the Hordern Pavilion, which is in the Fox Precinct area. Well, the Hordern Pavilion's still there. And the Hordern Pavilion used to run these dance parties every so often, like every 2 months, you know, they'd have this big party. And some of the names that I was thinking of, I can't even remember the names, but, you know, and it was really interesting. It was at the time where, you know, a lot of the gay community was really the first participants in a lot of these dance festivals. And what would actually happen is, it was the first time that I actually, you know, saw a gay-friendly population, you know, sort of party together. And when I say party together, not actually hook up together, but actually socialize together. And this is the drug that was regularly used at these festivals, and some of those parties were called Bacchanalia, and I can't even remember all the names of the parties, right? But they used to be parties that used to go to 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, right? And Ecstasy is an interesting drug because what it does is, approximately within 30 to 45 minutes of taking it, you get a feeling of confidence and warmness inside you. And you get a feeling where you feel really, you do feel happy, and you're in a very happy mood to talk to people, and everyone looks nice. And that feeling for me sort of peaked for around 1 or 2 hours. The first time I took it, I still remember it. I took it with my ex. Ooh, I'm not even going to mention it because he might be watching. But he was in real estate, or he is in real estate. And it actually lasted for a lot longer than that. It actually lasted for, like, you know, 4 to 5 hours. But the more I took it, I noticed that the duration of the good feeling actually reduced and reduced. And the other thing I'll say to you is that it was definitely a fantastic feeling, and I really looked forward to taking it. But I have to say to you, the day after and the day after and the day after, so basically 3 days after, were just totally dark, shattered, because what would happen is the chemicals had actually done so much damage to your body that, just like you hear the terms recovery parties, your body needed total recovering. And some of the feelings that I would get was this total dehydration, tiredness, insecurity, paranoia, a lot of sweating. My face would break out in pimples. I couldn't sleep in the early stages. I couldn't operate that week at work was an absolute write-off. And the best way to compare it now is Ecstasy the day after feels like chemotherapy the day after. And I can tell you, it is the worst feeling that I've experienced. And I have no desire and I have no intention to ever touch that substance ever again. And right now, if you're watching this video in this holiday period, listen to me very carefully. I'm telling you that the Ecki tablets that are going around at the moment have been reported to having 10 times the potency. So pretty much you've got to be an absolute idiot to be taking it. Apparently, they've got the symbol of a Tesla out of all things on them. And I would urge you not to even think about ecstasy. That's the first thing. Let me move on to the second drug. The second drug is cocaine. And cocaine for me, and by the way, can I just tell you, my feeling of anyone that is taking cocaine or ecstasy, fundamentally, there is a gap that they're trying to fill. Because you think about it, to me, what you're basically saying is, I want to take something because I feel I'm not enough to be happy in this scenario. And that to me shows the signs of deficiency in personality. Cocaine, without a doubt, has a very similar feeling to ecstasy in the early stages: confidence, well-being, feeling good. It appears to have a very short time frame of making you feel that, where people then want to rush off back into the bathroom and have another line. Cocaine, to me, didn't have the bad side effect of the day after that ecstasy did, but it certainly did have a very, very bad after effect. I can't sleep if I've ever taken it, and that is also a drug I will never, ever, ever touch. Will never, ever touch. And I actually think it's quite sickening to see people having to run into the toilet every half an hour to come back, chasing, but never quite arriving. Always looking for that special feeling. And can I just say, for me, I can get a better feeling of those two drugs by simply doing exercise and listening to great music. I get the same chemical feeling in my body as I did in those drugs, without any of the costs, side effects, and loss of productivity and negative impact to my health. So now we've got someone, Daniel, saying that psycho mushrooms will open your third eye. And you know, Daniel, whether that's the case or not, there's another drug that I won't ever touch. Anything that is, acid, not interested. Because I've got to pretty much tell you, I'm pretty happy with the way that I think. I am pretty happy with the way that I think. I'm pretty confident without those drugs. I pretty much like people without those drugs. I can have a good conversation without those drugs. And I love going to sleep and waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning feeling fresh. And I'm going to say it again. You can get the same feeling by doing cardio for 40 minutes and listening to music that you love. Now, let me move on to the third drug, marijuana or cannabis. What do I think about that drug when I've experienced it? And that is the drug that I tried a lot more than the other two. I can tell you that I think it's absolutely a disgrace that the Australian government treats cannabis in a far stricter way than what it treats prescription drugs that you can buy, the ones that start with the oxy, right? Which I know so many people and people in real estate that have been addicted to these drugs. And I think that they're called class 1 schedule drugs. That's what cannabis is, but these drugs aren't on there. And they are addictive, and they are more addictive than heroin. They are more addictive than heroin. And how on earth can you actually walk in to a doctor's surgery, fucking come up with a really good excuse that you've got a pain in your back that you haven't slept for 3 nights, suck the stupid doctor in, go over the counter and have a drug that creates a dependency like heroin? It is just out of this planet. So let me move back on to cannabis. So cannabis to me is definitely a drug people should take if they are vomiting through chemotherapy, because there are two elements in cannabis. There is CBD and there is THC. CBD will not get you stoned. CBD will not actually get you tripping or feeling your mind is out of control. CBD generally is taken as drops or can be consumed in a number of ways, but a very common way that it is actually consumed is, under your tongue or putting something on your tongue. And I can pretty much tell you there are hospitals like RPA. Hello, my cousin Vlad is on. Good to see you. Good to see you, Vlad. And I can pretty much tell you that RPA Lifehouse prescribes medicinal cannabis. This is in Missenden Road, and they give it to people that are struggling with vomiting. I have found that medicinal cannabis is the one thing that gave me relief from nausea when being on chemotherapy. And I can tell you it's not addictive. It actually helps you sleep, and it's pretty harmless. There have been times that I've had medicinal cannabis available to me, or even in my house for years, and just haven't touched it. Right. So what does actually marijuana feel like when you're not using it for medicinal cannabis? And let me just touch medicinal cannabis for a moment. The only difference between medicinal cannabis and non-medicinal cannabis is the intent on why you use it. Let's be very clear. If you're using medicinal cannabis because it's there to help the nausea or pain, right, you say it's for medical purposes. But if you're actually using cannabis to actually get stoned, it's actually not medicinal cannabis, because it's the intent on why you're doing it. So what does marijuana feel? It's different for different people. If you've got schizophrenia or any mental depression in your family, or anything to suggest that you've got a family that has got a tendency to have mental health issues, I would not touch marijuana, because there is black and white clear evidence to say that it can actually not cause it, but if you've got a tendency or a predisposition towards it, it'll actually move it forward. So I wouldn't touch it. What does it feel to many people? It gives them a feeling of relaxation and chillingness. You just feel really chilled out. And then what it does is, for many people, it gives them an appetite, which is one of the real good reasons why people take it, because they don't want to end up becoming that skinny cancer look. The real secret with cannabis is to actually take just enough, never take more, right? Never take more. And I think someone has said about microdosing, right? You just take enough, right? And what it does is, and I do know plenty of people in business that are taking cannabis to help them sleep, but they're taking medicinal cannabis to help them sleep. And the real secret is that you actually take the right type, because there is two types of cannabis. There is indigo and sativa, and one of them actually makes you feel more stimulated than the other. But if sleep is your issue, I'm pretty certain you want to be taking a sativa. My personal view of all those three drugs is that cannabis is definitely the least one that you should get concerned about. Personally, I would say to anyone, if you haven't tried any drugs, don't try either. Don't try any of those three anyway, because I can pretty much tell you that if you're fit, if you're training, if you're hanging out with positive people, if you're eating clean, you will find that you'll have a far better well-being than anything that can come from a substance that you either eat, smoke, or consume in any way. So if you're a person that's been curious about what it feels like, I've got to tell you, it's really overrated. It's extremely overrated. And trust me, I'm a person that's curious, and I love, I love feeling fucking fantastic when I can, and I can pretty much tell you, having consumed those three, normal for me is far better than any of those three. So let me move on and talk to you a little bit about why people love. This is really interesting. There was research done. In 2013 by Mina Cikara. Who studied the following. Get ready for it. He studied that out of 4 people in an experiment, a wealthy person, an elderly person, a student, and a junkie. Out of those 4, a rich person, a junkie, a student, or an elderly person, people were asked who they were happiest the most when a car drove by and had water sort of come off the road and splash them. Who they were most happy the water to hit. Get ready for it. It was the wealthy person. The wealthy person was the person that people wanted to suffer. And not only did that research go on to show that when someone is wealthy or successful, people have a tendency to be envious of that person, but they also found out the following, that they loved that person to suffer. Shouldn't swear. They loved that person to suffer. And that's interesting, right? Why would that be the case? And then I was thinking about it. I was listening to a podcast about a guy that saw a girl get out of a really nice, expensive luxury car, and he automatically associated a negative feeling towards her, as if for her to have actually got out of that wealthy car, she had actually done something bad. And this is really interesting because I actually think, hi Shari, I actually think that a lot of times the reason why people are not successful is that they associate a negative connotation to being successful. That to be successful, you must have actually made someone suffer. You must have ripped someone off. You must have actually forced someone to lose for you to win. And if you actually have that mindset, you have to understand that that self-limiting belief will actually stop you and sabotage your own success, because what you're doing subconsciously is you're actually associating to yourself that if I become successful, I'm actually going to become like that person that I hate. And the truth is that that girl getting out of that nice car might actually be just the best person in the world. The truth is that that wealthy person that got splattered by water, that everyone was happy for that person to suffer, may be a person that actually had given more to society and community than that person that hypothetically, the junkie, who may have stole and killed, right? Yet we were still happy to see that rich person suffer more than the elderly, than a student, and then the junkie. And for me, all I'm going to say to you is jealousy is a curse. I agree, Rob Travato. And in fact, I would say out of all the feelings in the world, jealousy and envious is one of the worst. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to give you a piece of advice, because I know, particularly with real estate agents, they hate competitors. They hate looking at competitors post on social media, looking successful. They sometimes hate what this person has done in a deal, and they've got this, revenge and anger and negativity. Here's my advice. My advice is that what you do and what the cure to it is the following. Number one, collaboration. Why wouldn't you say to yourself, I might go work with that successful person. Because you know what? 1 + 1 might equal 4. That's the first one. The second thing is, please understand, forgiveness is the best thing. And I'll tell you why. Because when you forgive, you can't have anger and revenge. And when you forgive, what happens is you let go and you no longer give a flying F about that person. But when you don't forgive, it occupies you. It forms all your behavior. You seem to be always participating in that person. And I know plenty of real estate people that are always being tyrannized by this. But the minute you let go and forgive, you can then focus on the thing you've got control of. Because don't you get it? Even if you're angry, even if you're upset, even if you're envious, it doesn't change that person, but it's always destroying you. Think about it. So forgive. And if they're that good, collaborate. Collaborate. Guys and girls, 5 trends that I think are going to be massive in real estate in 2020. Here they are. The first one is, I believe that VPA pay later platforms are going to become the norm. This year was a big year, but next year I think it will become part of the landscape. And the way they work is this. You'll go to a vendor and you'll say to the vendor, the marketing is $5,000. Would you like to pay that now, or would you like to pay $5,250 in 6 months' time when the property is settled? And you're going to get these third-party organizations, and Campaign Agent is one of them, one that I've actually studied, and I like their model, and you'll probably find that I'll actually talk about them more because I'm going to do some work with them. I love it. I mean, they've done 50,000 deals, and Seth Watts, who has been part of the real estate landscape roughly the same time as myself, 25, 30 years, who's been running a very fantastic business in Melbourne, who's one of the founders of Campaign Agent. I just think the model makes sense, because I think for a real estate agent to go into a listing presentation and try and get the vendor to, one, pick them, to actually say pay that fee, and then you've got to go off and push hard for the marketing and say give it to me, and then basically be a collector of it. I think it's just too challenging in the world that we live in, right? And I've just gone off and I've asked so many agents that are using these products, and they've told me that their VPA has gone up about 20% by using it, because people love this pay later option. The second thing that I think is going to be really big is PA outsourcing. A lot of that will actually happen in places like the Philippines, but I'm really certain, and by the way, I use outsourcing in the Philippines. I really do believe that that's going to be massive in 2020. I mean, what you get for your money that you spend in those countries, as long as you've got really good, clear descriptions of what people have got to do. And I love the concept that the fact that in these countries, you know, they're working while you finished off work at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock at night, they're still putting 4 or 5 hours work. So I think to myself that that's going to be super big. I think telephone canvases are back. There are a number of organizations that I deal with that are telling me, you know, the $20, $30, $40, $50, $60 an hour they're paying out to professional telemarketers to actually nurture leads or to create appointments is going to be big. I mean, there's a certain group of real estate agents that simply don't want to be doing massive amounts of calls, but it doesn't mean those calls shouldn't still be happening. I think that's going to be big. I think an organization to look out for in 2020 is Momentum Media. They are the people that a lot of people don't realize how big this group is. And in fact, I'll say that they are probably one of the biggest influencers in our industry and will continue to be so. They actually are the people that publish the REB Top 100, the deal makers. And what a lot of people don't know, that Alex Whitlock and Phil Tarrant, who are the main two people of that business, of course Jim Hall as well, they publish, they basically have created communities in accountants, lawyers, mortgage brokers, real estate industry, small business, property investors. They are a massive organization, man. We're talking here, they make real estate offices look super small. They're a business in the North Sydney. They've got multiple floors. I don't know how many staff they got. I don't know, 150 or even more. And they're going to be massive. They've made a big investment in real estate, so watch out for them. A lot of people know them from being REB. I believe that computer-generated lists are going to also become big in 2020. I think there's a few organizations at the moment. Sarah Bell with her business, Rita, is one of those organizations where what they do is they do the strategic thinking to create powerful lists. One of the reasons people don't prospect is they don't actually have a list. And all I can say to you is powerful lists equal powerful results. And I'm very certain that we're going to see artificial intelligence that works out who has got a propensity of actually doing business sooner rather than later. These lists are going to be provided, and I believe that these businesses will become more and more important. And that's what I think. And the last thing I'm going to say to you is, and this was extremely surprising for me, and I did one thing differently in the last 3 months, and that is that I reduced and pretty much now hardly use the F word in my day-to-day interactions in my personal life and in my business life. I do slip up occasionally, and it is quite bizarre. I can't think of any other reason why in those 3 months our social media engagement skyrocketed. We are now number one. We are the number one in the world, the whole world, Facebook influencer in the world, right? Not just Australia. And I have to say to you, it appears that by reducing that word, there were people that were on the outskirts that liked the content but used to sort of freak out at the word. And to me, it's just a word, but words are powerful. Like, to me, when I think about words do change lives. I mean, Adolf Hitler had the ability to brainwash people. We could go on that subject because I actually think people are also dopes if they're in masses and follow someone that's someone that's ridiculous, right? But, the issue is that, and by the way, it was a monk at the Central Coast, Father Estevios, who was the XQC of Jeff Kennett, who decided to drop everything, become a monk on the Central Coast, who had a conversation with me and said to me, Tom, I realize that impacting people positively in their lives is very important for you. And I realize that you've got a group of people that fit into this category that you impact. And all I'd like to say to you is that you've got a very good message. And you've got an ability to actually change the way people think. Why wouldn't you actually make it even bigger by actually including and being inclusive of people that may actually be deterred by some of the language that you use? And it's been a short-term experiment, and I'm pleased to let you know it's been a positive experiment. And I'll see how I'll go. But I mean, so I thought I'd share that with you. And guys and girls, is there anything else I want to share with you? Yes, one more thing I'll say to you. What are 5 things you've got to do as you set a change program in 2020? Start contemplating. Number 1, make sure you've got a 30-day goal, not a 5-year goal, not a 1-year goal. You need something that you can say, a month ahead, I can actually get this. Number 2, decide on the daily behaviors you'll need to actually execute to get that 30-day goal. So having a 30-day goal, right, is step 1. Step 2 is say, hey, if I'm going to get this 30-day goal, I've actually got to do I've got to do this for 30 days. Hypothetically, I want to learn how to speak. I don't know. Let's say I want to learn how to speak. What's a good language to learn how to speak? I want to learn how to speak French, right? I want to learn how to speak French. I want to learn 300 words in 30 days. There's a goal. I want to learn 300 words in 30 days. What is the behaviors I need to put in? I need each day to learn 10 words. Why? Because 30 days times 10 equals 300. And you've been able to achieve your goal by simply working out what do I have to do each day. The next thing you've got to do is create a list of things that are hurdles that are going to get in the way of you actually doing those behaviors. For instance, you turn around and you say, you know, one of the hurdles will be, I won't have time. That's okay. What you'll do is very simple. You'll put in your diary from 7 to 7:30 after you've come back from the gym as time that you'll schedule it, because what gets scheduled gets done, right? And then the fourth thing you do is you create accountability. You create accountability because that helps. And what do there? You turn around and you say to someone, I want to check in with you at the end of each week for the next month. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with 75 words each week that I've learnt in French. So that's 4 weeks, 75, that's 300. And the last thing you do is you measure your progress. You keep a record at the end of each day how many words you learn. Why? What you measure, you manage. Now, you've just taken those 5 principles and you can incorporate that into anything that you want in your life that is a change program. This is the heads up because I know that in 2 weeks we're going to be coming up to January 1, and that's the time when you're actually planning, you know, a new behavior, because new beginnings allow you the opportunity to have a new life. And I think that most people are going to screw up because they're not going to pay attention to this formula or this map. Guys and girls, if you've enjoyed the rant, do me a favor, tag someone, share it. And I'd like to wish you all a fantastic week. Next week, I'll be speaking to you again from my home. The week after that, I'll be speaking to you from Byron Bay. Have a great week, guys and girls. And remember, there are still a lot of people that want to do business in this last week. Go strong. See you next Sunday.